Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I am D Squared, Rudy Arman. We appreciate you for joining us today as we will have some quality sports talk and recruiting conversation for the next hour for you. We're going to talk in our first segment about some college football and some transfer portal news from the University of Alabama. In our second half of the show, we are going to have a very special guest for the first time on the Recruiting Blitz. But he joined us a couple times during their journey to history last year. They are currently ranked the number 2 team in all of 6A basketball. They got a big win at home against Paul Bryant High School out of Tuscaloosa last night. They are 19-4, ranked number 2 in all of 6A basketball. We've talked a lot of basketball this week, and we talked to some outstanding coaches. We talked to the number 1 team overall, and I think in Alabama, and the number 1 team in 6A, Daryl Barber. Certainly they lived up to it as the Pinson Valley Indians defeated the number 8 in 7A Huntsville Crimson Panthers. And now I believe Huntsville's up to number 5 but in the latest poll. But at the time we're ranked number 8, and so Huntsville High falls 67-59 on the road to that outstanding Pinson Valley team led by Daryl Barber. Daryl Barber, of course, winning a state title there at Pinson, the first one ever in 2019, and in 7 years winning 3 titles with the Midfield Patriots in 2012, 2014, and 2017. So a 4-time state champion head coach is Daryl Barber, headed to the Hall of Fame almost certainly in the state of Alabama, and squared off against Christian Swears, who has built Huntsville High into a very consistent program, on the precipice of having a shot to maybe potentially get to a Final Four. They've certainly been to 4 straight Sweet 16s, 3 Elite 8s, and done an amazing job. But it was a great game over there, high level, high intensity, 2 outstanding teams in front of a really good crowd, including Crimson Tide legend and, of course, Bryant Bank representative Bobby Humphrey. Of course, Bryant Bank, a sponsor of this 256-205 challenge. But again, right now, Birmingham is leading that 2-1 tonight. I believe Haleyville travels over to midfield. And so that's going to be another outstanding contest. So we'll be monitoring that chapter in this first-time challenge between Birmingham and North Alabama, and especially Madison County and Huntsville. But Haleyville and Dylan Burleson, he's been on with us on Talking Ball, outstanding coach, and they will be adding to their resume because they have played as tough a schedule as anyone in the state of Alabama. And, of course, they are led by Drake and Bryant James, 2 outstanding guards with a special group over there at Haleyville. But they'll be headed out to midfield tonight, and then next week at the Capitol, the Sparkman Senators are going to be taking on the Ramsey Rams. We had Denton Johnson on yesterday. What a great conversation that was. We've had the number 1 school in 6A on their head coach, a highly ranked Huntsville team this week with Coach Christian Swears, Coach Denton Johnson, who's the coach of the number 1 Ramsey Rams. And now, later in this hour, we are going to have the number 2 team in all of 6A basketball, the defending 6A state champions, and that is the Coleman Bearcats under the great leadership of Stu Studeman. And, of course, as you know, Les Studeman, his older sister, she is a legend. She is a Hall of Famer at UAH. She started the UAH softball program and has done everything for UAH softball but win a national title, which she's come close to doing on multiple occasions, and hopefully will eventually get that done. But she has been an amazing leader for our community. And, of course, his other older sister, Van Studeman, a longtime pitching coach at Alabama for Coach Patrick Murphy, and led the Mississippi State program, and now is back in college softball as she is the pitching coach at the University of Illinois. So it's a coaching family for the Studemans. And Stu, of course, won his first state title as a head coach last year in his first year at Coleman. It's been really remarkable when you think about it, what he's done for the Bearcats. When you think about going 29-3 last year with that group, and then coming back this year with a target on your back, and already having 48 wins. 48 wins, I believe, and 7. 48 wins, or 49 wins, and 7 losses for Stu Studeman. 48. Math was never my strength. I totally suck at math here. But when you think about it, like I said, 19 wins. He won 29 last year. So, yes, 48 wins for Stu Studeman. 48-7 he is in 2 years with the Coleman Bearcats so far. and they're going to be trying to repeat as state champions. It's going to be a very difficult challenge because that's one of the hardest things to do in sports is to, win back-to-back state titles. But 48-7 for Stu Studeman and what he's done with the Coleman Bearcats, and he's going to be good enough to join us at about 9:25. We're going to talk to one of the best coaches in the state of Alabama, a great guy. Had a chance to watch his team dismantle Pleasant Grove on Monday on Martin Luther King Day. They won 80-50, and then win big last night back home over on the campus of Coleman High School as they get it done. And as their hashtag has been since he took over is chaos. And Stu, even though he's a very young coach, he turned a program around at Greenville High School. As we know, he was here, had a winning season, his lone season in our community at Grissom High. Went back for his second tour with Mountain Brook and Bucky McMillan, and then helped Ty Davis get started as Ty Davis won a state championship in his first season in 6A for the Mountain Brook Spartans, and now has gone on to now establish himself. Probably a perfect fit for Stu with the community at Coleman. They're a rabid high school sports community, a very tight-knit town, and certainly we had a chance with. We've also had Brent Patterson on talking ball many times, and he's an outstanding baseball coach for the Bearcats, and they've won 5 state championships at Coleman. Just done a remarkable job in baseball, and now Stu Studeman proving they can win it in basketball. So a very passionate fan base, have had a very solid football program. I know they just made a coaching change there and made a hire. So it's a very passionate sports community. That's the town of Coleman. It's really circles around the Bearcats, and so Stu has done a remarkable job creating enthusiasm and energy. We're going to talk with him and talk some Bearcat basketball in the next few minutes as he's going to join us and give us some of his time today. But we're also going to talk some Alabama football because, as I was saying, Alabama kind of surprised some people yesterday. And if you've been here listening to this show or listening to Talking Ball at all, you've heard me say that I didn't think Alabama was done in the transfer portal with C.J. Dupree from Maryland committed, the tight end. I thought they were still going to add some pieces. Alabama, of course, still trying to put together that coaching staff under Nick Saban. I think there's going to be a lot of changes defensively. Hopefully, going back to the future. But I think there's going to be a lot of changes on that side of the ball. I don't think anything will be announced until around February the 1st. But Alabama's still adding pieces, and it went public last night. But Alabama has added its second commitment out of the transfer portal, and it's a guy they recruited back in 2018, and it's Tresman Marshall from the Georgia Bulldogs. He's an inside linebacker, and I thought that was one of the, besides tight end, I thought 4 other spots you might see an addition. Inside linebacker was one. I also said safety potentially because Alabama had a lot of losses back there in the back end with DeMarco Helms, with certainly Jordan Battle. They played a lot of snaps for the University of Alabama. Brian Branch goes pro early from the NFL. I would look, and then potentially, I think interior offensive line, perhaps at guard, even a center, but especially guard. I think that's a place that you could potentially see. Alabama add someone, no question about it. And so I kind of just felt like those positions were ones to watch. I just think overall, and I think defensive line. I wouldn't be surprised if they added a defensive lineman or two, especially if they make a change at defensive line coach. And if they do, I think you could see an addition or two along the defensive line to make Alabama deeper and more stout, because I don't know that they were good enough and consistent enough along the defensive line this past year. But again, Tresman Marshall announced on Thursday via his Instagram account that he was coming to Alabama. He just entered the portal less than a week ago, because again, as everyone knows, today is January the 20th. Yesterday was the deadline for the first transfer portal. As far as since it was open for about a month, that was the first window, and it's now closed. Won't be open again until May after spring practice. So these guys had to get their name in the portal officially to have a chance to move on. And so Tresman Marshall moves on, and now he's already on campus and enrolled at Alabama. 6'1", 230 pounds. He spent the last 4 years in Athens. He played in 32 games, and He in this past season he played in 14 of 15 games. Never started for Georgia, but he did play in 14 of the 15. He was hurt for much of the 19 and 20 seasons because he had a couple of labrum problems with his shoulders and then a knee in 2021. But in 4 years, he tallied 24 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, and the majority of these numbers were this past year. He also had 2 pass breakups. He had, again, 19 of the 24 tackles were this season, and the 4.5 tackles for loss. And they would, and he was so he was a really valuable reserve for them. Now we'll see what happens at Alabama. Alabama's having to replace both of its starting inside linebackers, as we know. 2-year starter Henry To'oTo'o, after starting 2 years at Tennessee, he started 2 years at Alabama. And Jalen Moody, who's a program guy, a 5-year guy, who came back for his COVID year. He and Henry To'oTo'o are moving on to the next level. Jalen Moody actually finished the year injured as well, had a shoulder issue, but is now, going to move on to the National Football League. And then Demoye Kennedy from Theodore, he is transferring, but he had already sustained a season-ending knee injury during the season last year when they went to Arkansas. He's going to look to play elsewhere in 23, but he would have been down the depth chart and coming back from that injury. Probably wouldn't have been able to do much in spring practice. And he'd also worked some at outside linebacker. So Demoye going to go ahead and move on and try to get an opportunity somewhere else. May go back home to South Alabama and play for Kane Womack. That may be a good fit too. So definitely they wanted to add some experience. Deontay Lawson finished the year strong, and I think definitely is a favorite to start at either the Mike or the Will next year, even though the schemes being so similar at Alabama and Georgia, I could see Tresman Marshall potentially even being the Mike and allowing Deontay Lawson to play the Will. So we'll see, no doubt. Certainly they still have returners like Kendrick Blackshire, who's from the state of Texas, who's a really good young player, who's looks great physically. And it'll probably help these guys if they're going to have a new defensive coordinator who I didn't think Pete Golding was an outstanding inside linebackers coach. So if you get a guy like Jeremy Pruitt back, I think he could help these guys in their development. There's no doubt about that. You'd also have Ian Jackson from Prattville, Jihad Campbell, who was a true freshman who flipped from Clemson, a former 5-star from IMG Academy, really looks great physically. Sean Murphy, a 4-star from the state of Virginia. So we'll see, how these guys develop. But certainly they wanted to bring in some depth, no doubt about it. And Quay Russaw and Justin Jefferson are 2 signees that are going to go through spring practice that are going to get a chance to assert themselves as well. Justin Jefferson can absolutely fly. He's a guy that can run a true 4-4. If he can learn the inside linebacker, assignments quickly, and I think even if Tresman Marshall doesn't start, he may come in and be able to help some of these young linebackers learn, like a Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson could be an impact guy, no question, if he can, learn the defense. And then Quay Russaw, the 5-star from Carver Montgomery, I still think he's going to be more of a Sam and be an outside linebacker, but he could also play inside. He's a violent player, very, very fast, and so I think, it was a good addition for Alabama, a low-risk move, but as we said, I don't think Nick Saban has been totally satisfied with some of the development of the young players, and again, it gives them more competition. It also gives them somebody that can teach them the game a little bit, an older head who's been in college for 4 years, who knows the ups and downs, and so at the very least, his leadership will be valuable in the room, his ability to help the young guys come along, and he could start. I mean, there's no question about that. I know people will say, well, why is Alabama taking Georgia scraps? Why is Alabama taking Georgia backups? They needed depth at the position at the very least, and again, I'm not saying he's going to have the impact of a Jamison Williams and be a first-team All-American, but remember, Jamison Williams, even though he had been a 5-star, had, very, pedestrian stats at Ohio State because he was at best their number 4 receiver before he came and blossomed at Alabama. So we'll see what happens to Tresman Marshall, but it was a good get, I think, for Alabama. And again, one where you're getting someone that's from the program you're chasing, but their program is that, basically the blueprint is from Alabama. So I think it's a wise move if the young man wanted to move on and come into the portal. And so he can definitely at least provide depth, but he's going to compete for a starting job, no doubt about it. And so, and I think Alabama needs that right now. And they need someone, maybe an experienced guy to play alongside Deontay Lawson and help bring along guys like Jihad Campbell, Sean Murphy, Justin Jefferson, and Quay Russaw, even though Russaw could also play some outside backer. But also Marshall has to stay healthy. As we said, he had the two labrum problems in each shoulder at Georgia. He's also had knee issues, so he needs to finally stay healthy. And if he can, I think he can assert himself. And he played a valuable role. I mean, Georgia went 15-0. He played in 14 of the 15 games. He had the majority of his stats in his 4 years in Athens occurred this year. So he had created some value for himself. And certainly Alabama, in every edition, is vetted by Nick Saban. He absolutely had to like what he saw when they were looking at Trez Marshall. And so Trezman Marshall coming to the University of Alabama from Georgia. So I think that's a big get for the Tide. And I still think we could see 3 or 4 more additions in the portal, especially after the next portal class. We see a lot of guys enter after spring practice. I think Alabama's going to have their antennas up, no question about it. I don't know if they'll add any more guys in this cycle before spring practice because, again, the drop ad dates have already approached or are approaching. I know there's some late ads. You could probably do that in early February. So we'll see if Alabama gets some coaches in place and if they try to make any more moves for other players. We'll have to see about that, no doubt about it. But I thought that was a very interesting development in Tuscaloosa late last night. Trezman Marshall, who'd been in Tuscaloosa for several days, never publicized it, never said he was visiting Tuscaloosa, never said where he was going. He just announced he was entering the transfer portal and then announced his commitment. So it was kind of done on the down low, very quiet. Alabama kept it quiet, and Alabama's keeping quiet right now this coaching search as they try to find a defensive coordinator to replace Pete Golding. And we wonder what's going to happen with Bill O'Brien. It was reported yesterday by various media outlets that Bill O'Brien is now officially interviewed with Bill Belichick to come back as offensive coordinator. I still think he's going to be gone within the next 7 to 10 days. I'm not as convinced that any other changes are going to happen on offense. Eric Wolford, offensive line coach, Joe Cox, tight ends coach, Holman Wiggins, I think has talked to Steve Sarkisian, but he's not going to Texas. I think he's coming back. Robert Gillespie at running backs. So it wouldn't surprise me if Nick Saban has to hire a OC and QB coach combo, the guy. Jeff Lebby is a name I've heard prominently mentioned from Oklahoma. He's an RPO guy, known for working with quarterbacks and guys call plays. So we'll see if he's the guy or what direction Nick Saban goes in, and we'll see if Jeremy Pruitt is going to get cleared. I still think he's the lead guy at defensive coordinator and what they're trying to put together at Alabama, and the bell tolling and trying to put together some experienced guys that know Nick Saban's system on defense. So we'll have to wait and see about that, no question about it. But as I said, we're also going to be talking some Coleman Bearcat basketball in just a few minutes. But before we do that, as always, I wanted to encourage everyone out there to download our Blitz Sports Radio app if you have not. We've been going strong since late July. We love recruiting here. It's 365 days a year. But this show is about recruiting. It's also about giving coaches a voice. It's about giving student athletes a voice as well when they choose a school. It's about talking to some of the best recruiting analysts in the business to inform us about certain schools and where their recruiting is going. But again, it's a labor of love for me. I've been a recruiting fanatic for many, many years. It's one of the reasons I'm in this business. But please download our Blitz Sports Radio app, the Google Store, the Apple Store. And if you have not, please download our 97.7 The Zone app, our sister station. You'll be able to hear Alabama basketball tomorrow. Also, UAH basketball. We've got 4 streams, so you'll be able to hear UAH. You'll be able to hear the University of Alabama as Alabama. Brian Passett, Chris Stewart on the call. We'll be taking on Kobe Brown and Caleb Brown, the two Brown brothers from Lee High School, played for their Hall of Fame coach, Greg Brown, just an outstanding guy. They're going to be playing Alabama in Como. I'm sure Greg will be there in Columbia, Missouri, as his sons, especially Kobe, who's averaging nearly 16 points per game and 6 rebounds, one of the best players in the SEC. If not college basketball, he's already dropped 30 on Kentucky in a win. 84-70 in Columbia. So it's going to be a tough matchup for Alabama, who's ranked number 4 in the country, but they have Brandon Miller, who I think is the best player in the SEC, not just the best freshman. Alabama's playing at a very high level at 16-2 right now, 6-0 in the SEC. So that's going to be a big matchup. So download the 97.7 The Zone app, Google Store, Apple Store. You can listen to that. And then download our, of course, Blitz Sports Radio app. And don't forget, later today, the Bandy Man, Bailey Lowry, Captain Cool, John Abraham, they're going to be on from 2 to 4 with quality sports talk. And so we're the kings of local programming in the state of Alabama, no doubt about it, and really, especially here in North Alabama. And speaking of North Alabama, the Coleman Bearcats, they have one of the best programs in the state, and their head basketball coach is going to join us next. Stu Studeman, stay with us here on this Friday edition of the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared.
TOC Sports has been there for you. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what does that mean? It means for more than 20 years, Alabama's largest orthopedic group has been there providing coverage and care to more schools and student athletes in the Tennessee Valley than any other group. It means whether you are the star football player, the all-region volleyball ace, or someone who hurt their knee in a weekend pickup basketball game, TOC Sports physicians are proud to have the opportunity to care for all your orthopedic needs. It means for parents, coaches, athletes, desk jockeys, or even weekend warriors, TOC Sports physicians continue to meet and exceed the orthopedic and sports medicine needs of our community. But most importantly, during these challenging times, we're here for you now, and will continue to be here. So as long as there are players on the field, games to be played, and contests to be won, the orthopedic specialists from TOC Sports will be ready to help. We don't know what the future holds, but you can count on the TOC Sports team to stay committed to you, so you can stay in the game. Call 256-539-2728 today and ask to see a TOC Sports physician. Check them out online, also Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time, or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
I'm Abraham here for my friend Brian Hamaker and his team at North Alabama Mortgage. Look, buying a home is the biggest purchase you will make in your life, and it can be a bit intimidating, so you want people that can help walk you through the mortgage process and get you the best deal possible. That's what North Alabama Mortgage does, and they do it in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, from first-time purchases to refis, conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA loans. They have the solution at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com.
The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved, and 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I am D Squared. And as we said, we are blessed with this show. We've had some outstanding coaches on the show, even just this week. We had Darryl Barber of the Pinson Valley Indians, the #1 team in 6A basketball and ranked in the top 50 in the country. Christian Swears, Huntsville High has been ranked perennially in the top 10. I think they're up to #5 now. We're at #8 before taking on Pinson Valley this week. And now we are honored to be joined by the #2 team in 6A basketball, the defending state champions program under his leadership that is 48-7 as he is nearing the stretch run of his second season. We also had Denton Johnson, #1 team in 5A on this week, as the Ramsey Rams are turning it up, trying to make their 5th straight Final Four. So again, outstanding coaches that have blessed us with their presence and been taking some time to join us. And this next one is a good friend of mine. As you followed his journey, he was here for a year in our community at Grissom High School. Before that, he turned the Greenville program around, and now after helping Mountain Brook climb the mountain in Ty Davis's first year, unbelievable. And I should say Tyler Davis, but his son Ty, an outstanding player in his own right. But they win a state championship a couple years ago, and then last year I was able to witness it at Wallace State, and then all the way through to Birmingham. What a great ride for the Coleman Bearcats, 29-3, their first state championship in the modern era of high school basketball, and now trying to do something that's as hard to do as there is in sports, repeat. And they've had an outstanding start to this season at 19-4. They're coming off of a 68-35 win over Paul Bryant at Coleman Arena yesterday in Coleman High School on their campus. Before that, I saw them earlier this week on Martin Luther King Day on Monday, and they were extremely impressive, 80-50 over Pleasant Grove over at Wallace State. And of course, Stu Studeman is their coach, and he's with us this morning. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. I appreciate you having us on, man, and all you do for high school athletics and giving us the platform to voice our programs and put our players on the spotlight, man. I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate it, and you've had a remarkable run at Coleman, and I kind of equated it to this when we started our first segment is, I know you've been on quite a journey. You've been several different places, both as a head coach, and you certainly helped Bucky McMillan and Tyler Davis build that Mountain Brook program into a powerhouse. But this seems to be the perfect marriage of coach and community with you at Coleman. They're a very tight-knit group over there. The town kind of revolves around Coleman athletics. It's been an amazing jolt of energy to see what you've done. I mean, I watched your team the other day. They play so very, very hard. You play a lot of guys, and that's what we talked about when you joined us a couple times on Talking Ball last year when you guys won the state championship. But a remarkable run last year, and I know it was one that's unforgettable. And I know you'd won a state championship as an assistant coach, and I know this is a loaded question, and you're focused on this year. But what was it like completely, finishing the mission and winning a state title in Coleman last year?
Just very humbling. Everyone wants to finish the deal and win a state championship and win a championship at all levels. And when you first start out coaching, that's all you probably think about as a young guy. But then you quickly realize that when you win it, how many things have to go right for you and how lucky you have to be to get it done. And you realize, like, golly, there's so many great coaches out there who never win it or even never get the opportunity. And there's so many great coaches out there who may not even have a winning record, but they just don't have the talent to do it or get it done or the luck to get it done. And it's very humbling that we were able to accomplish it. And it's incredible to see how our players inspired a community and brought a community together. Our retired football coach Oscar Glasscock, I thought he had a great comment about our run. He said he thought we brought the school out of that COVID hangover funk and just united the community and had them all excited. And it's just an overwhelmingly humbling feeling that I had a small part in that.
Well, and then for our listeners who maybe didn't get a chance to see you guys during that journey, I know we're taking a quick look back, but talk about the seniors that meant so much to that team that had strapped it up for 4 years. And that's what I always talk about with this COVID too, because you get used to in the college parlance, we've seen guys have 6-7 year careers. They get added years of eligibility. That doesn't happen in high school. You don't get to do it over. You only get 4 years to do it. But I thought it was a special senior group you had.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we just had a bunch of really hungry leaders, and it's crazy. We started out with like 7 or 8 seniors, and then by the end of the summer, the first summer, we were down to 4. And they just the 4 guys who were just incredibly competitive, and they were hungry and coachable and held their teammates accountable. They just wanted it, and it was a completely player-driven team, player-led team. And those guys just have my respect for life, because it's not easy. Change is hard. And when things are kind of broken and, people are down and out about the way basketball was going, it's easy to be bitter and jaded and, go into things apprehensive, especially new things apprehensively. But they accepted it, and they took hard coaching, and I'll be honest with you, I'll call them friends for life, because I love them, and I'm so appreciative of them and what they were able to establish here early.
No doubt. And then I know it's tough to lose 4 guys like that, and but they were great leaders, but they set a tone for your program. And one of the hardest things to do, though, veteran and great friend Ronnie Stapler, he told me this many years ago. He said, Drew, you can have a good team, you can have a good year, but one of the hardest things to do is to build a program where you are good and consistent each and every season. But that's what you're in the middle of doing now, and that's what the remarkable thing is. 48-7 so far, but you've got a great culture established there. But that's the hardest thing to do now. Is you guys have been hunted all year, but you've responded. You're number 2 in the polls right now at 19-4. How has this group developed for you in year 2?
They just accepted the challenge of the hard work. It's been extremely hard this year on them, and we haven't gotten much of a rhythm due to sickness and injuries and stuff like that. And, they've handled it just about as well as you can handle it. And you step out on the floor every night, and you're going to get everyone's best shot. And my sister came to a game, and it was a battle. I mean, like, it was 10, 12-point game going in the fourth quarter, and everyone's like, why are we not blowing these teams out? Why are we not blowing these teams out? And my sister comes up to me, and I'm a little frustrated. We win a game by 24 points, and my sister comes up to me and is like, Stu, everyone knows what to expect now. You are not going to blow everyone out. They're going to fight you till the end because they don't want to get embarrassed. And last year's team had the element of surprise. No one really believed that we could do what we were doing, but when you win it, everyone believes. And so people gear up for a lot of fights going forward, and our guys have really handled it very well. They've worked extremely hard in the weight room, practices, skills sessions. They've just been – I'm really proud of them, just how they've handled it. And now we got some ways to go with some gelling and getting it going the absolute right way, but I'm proud of them.
No question. And then I wanted to ask you too a little bit about your journey and your influences, because I had a chance. Huntsville High traveled over to the Spartan Turkey Jam, and we were over there for about 3 days. And and one of the cool things we got to do was go watch Samford play, and they got a big win. And then we had a chance to talk to Bucky, and I know he meant a lot to your career. And he's still so really young in his career, but has done so much. I know you probably still talk constantly. He has a special relationship with Christian Swears as well, a lot of his former coaches. He's really got quite a coaching tree already with what Tyler Davis is doing. But talk about the influence he had on your career, and how, and what Bucky's doing, which right now is amazing in the SoCon, 7-0, and they've become already one of the better mid-major programs in college basketball.
I mean, Buck just means the world to me. His friendship is, Buck's one of my best friends. We talk a good deal, and I know if I ever need anything, Buck's going to be there for me. And same way. And he's just the biggest thing that Bucky did for me as a coach, sure, the X's and O's, I learned X's and O's from him and basketball from him, but at the end of the day, he instilled a belief in myself that I could do this. You know, I could be a great head coach, and I can build, not just have good seasons, but build a program. And he always instilled that belief into me, and I've always been so appreciative of that because, you know, I've always been a confident person, but like anyone, you have self-doubt, and Bucky basically took away all that self-doubt, and I'm so indebted to him, not only for that and his friendship, but, you know, him letting me be a part of a great coaching staff that was very successful at the high school level, and it's just been so fun watching him just kill it at Stanford, as I knew he would be, because winners win, and he's a winner in every aspect of life. And I'm hoping to go to the game Saturday. I'm really excited about it, and it's just been a blessing to watch their games on TV and see what they're doing with a depleted roster. I mean, they've had injuries, they've had sickness. I think their starting two guard is out for the year. Their best player from last year isn't. I don't think he's cleared till next week. I mean, it's just unbelievable. He's just a winner, and I love him, and, you know, I'm so appreciative of him.
Yeah, and it's remarkable because a lot of times it's hard to go from high school to college or college to the NBA and win, but Bucky's you know, been a quick study. I always thought he was ahead of his time in high school when I watched his team play. It was always such a unique style. He always had everybody fully invested. It didn't matter if you played 2 minutes or you played 28 minutes. Everybody was always, you know, the body language was great. The energy was great. I've seen you do it at Coleman. That's what I took from the team last year when I saw you guys. I didn't think you guys were the most talented team in the Wallace Regional, but I thought you were the most connected team. You played the hardest. I thought when I saw you guys play Monday, you played so hard. I mean, it's not pretty all the time, but they play hard and they play smart. And I think that formula is what Bucky taught you. He taught Christian. And, of course, Christian's father had a big influence on him as well. But that's why I was always such a big fan of Bucky's, going all the way back to over a decade ago when I first met him when he came to the Huntsville City Classic.
Well, you know, what's the great thing about Bucky? If you look at basketball in the state of Alabama, before Bucky took over in 2009, everyone played the game at half court.
Yeah.
And nobody believed that you could really pressure. And now some teams picked up and did some zone pressure, but not really the way that we were doing it. So you look at what he did. I mean, and now you look out there, everyone is pressing. Everyone's playing man-to-man. Everyone's playing fast. And it's a blessing. I mean, he changed the game for Alabama high school basketball. And then, you know, then you look up and everyone's starting to space the floor and shoot three. I really believe that Mountain Brook and Bucky were the first teams in the state to really space you and play fast and pick you up full court and shoot a lot of threes. And, you know, he changed the game. And then the Warriors came on and they cemented it, and everyone just started playing that way. Sure. And it's awesome to watch his influence and impact on the high school game keep growing and growing, and especially through me and Tyler and Christian Schweers, and we're going to carry the brand and, you know, carry the torch for the brand and hope it keeps growing because it's great for Alabama high school basketball.
And I tell you what, it was my first time getting to see him play in person when we watched them, win their game just over that Thanksgiving break, and they played very, very well. They beat. They won impressively. And the thing that I hadn't seen though, and that was the thing I wanted to look at, and when we sat behind their bench, was I wanted to see how invested the college players were, if it was the same kind of atmosphere, and I thought it was, as far as the culture, and then the remarkable staff he's put together, including a guy that I worked for, Stu. You know, I worked for this man back over 20 years ago. I was the equipment manager for the Huntsville Flight. He's got one of the best big coaches in the country, and I'm talking about pros or college basketball. This dude, Bob Thornton, is a big man savant. He's got him working for him Bob Thornton, I wondered why his bigs looked so good, and then I kept looking down the bench, and I was like, holy cow. I hadn't seen Bob in over a decade, but what a remarkable hire that was, and what a remarkable staff he's put together at Samford.
Well, that's one thing Bucky's able to do. He's always able to locate talent, locate people who are hungry, and locate people who believe in who he is as a coach and what they're doing, and then he lets you go to work. And if you're not doing what he needs you to do, he tells you to, pick it up or tells you what you need to do, but he's going to let you do your job and trust you to do your job because that's what he hired you to do. And he's always had a knack for that, and he's always had a talent for getting not just players and kids to believe in him, but for getting adults and coaches to buy into his message, and he makes everyone feel like they're valued and that they're a part of it. And it's a unique talent, man. It's something I really picked up for him. He lets people know that they're appreciative and they have something to do with it. From the top assistant to the custodian.
We were able to talk to him over at the hotel. It was his brother's birthday. He didn't even know it was the hotel we were staying at. He came over there, and I was able to hook up with him, and we talked to him for about 30 minutes. And he's the same guy, too. He hasn't changed at all. Still, I think, a very humble guy. We'll sit there and talk basketball with you. That means a lot. I know it means a lot to you. I admire your approach. You haven't changed at all. But talk about this group now. I mean, we're going to take a look at your Coleman team, 19-4. You just talked about having, a target on your back. You're led by Garrison Sharp, senior. He's going to UAH. Very solid, heady point guard. I was very impressed with him Monday. Tucker Cagle is back. I just think he's the glue. He's a grinder. He's so grimy. He gets after people, attacks. I just think he sets the tone for a lot of the other guys with how hard he plays. But just talk about how you've seen this group evolve.
Our team, we have a lot back from last year, but we're relatively young. We depended on a lot of juniors to be really successful, for us to be successful. And they had, guys who were playing 5 to sometimes 12 minutes a game last year, and they didn't really have any pressure on them because, they're just role guys, and now they're the guys. And it's been so fun watching them grow up and mature and become like, see them get 10, 15 points a game, or see one of our guys get 20 points and 10 rebounds. It's been so fun. Like when I first got here, a couple of these guys were, 6 foot and pudgy, and now they're like 6'5", 6'4", and long, lean, athletic machines. It's just so fun to watch their development. And I think, during this year, there's been so much pressure to keep winning that you forget like where these guys were, 21 months ago before our staff got here. And it's so amazing seeing their development and watching this team grow and become men and become competitors. And then you have our seniors like Garrison Sharp and Nate Seals, who doesn't get a lot of love, but he's a big, tough guy. Mm-hmm. And Tucker Cagle, you hit it on the head when he is right and he is mentally focused and tough, and he's not being the nicest of people on the court in practice and in games. I mean, he is just the motor, the heartbeat, everything vital to our success. And watching them play has just been fantastic. And how they've handled all this has been so great. And I'm hoping we're going to hit our stride right here, get on a roll, and get in a rhythm with each other and really start playing great basketball.
And I know you're looking forward to next week, too, because you guys haven't lost many games since you've been in Coleman, 48-7, but it was a really tough outcome against a good Decatur team on the road. It's very difficult to win over there, but you get a chance to get them in your environment next week.
Absolutely. We went on the road and didn't play very well. We just didn't play with our swagger, I guess, for lack of a better word, just our swagger, our toughness. And we got in a dogfight over there, and, they just outplayed us. They made more plays than us. And, I think that really is going to help us in the long run. Although you never want to lose an area game, but I really believe that will help us because since then, practices has been no holds barred, let's get it on in the center of the ring, and then our last two games have been no holds barred, let's get it on. You're going to have to run me over to get to this rack, or you're going to have to run me over to get this ball on a rebound, or I'm going to drive it down your throat, stuff like that. Mentality completely changed since they lost that game, and I'm very excited about next week. Decatur coming to our place, they're a good team. They got good players, and we're excited to see how we can bounce back against them.
Well, and Coach, I wanted to ask you too, because I know you mentioned how special Bucky is and the staff he's put together at Sanford and what he did with you and Christian and David Good, all those guys he had at Mountain Brook with him. Some of them are now with him at Sanford, but you've also put together a special staff now going into as you're going down the stretch of year 2. Talk about the staff you were able to bring with you and you were also able to connect with, because there's also guys, Christian has been very, very blessed with Caleb Brown and some guys that were already at Huntsville that shared his vision that he was able to connect with. But talk about the staff you've put together at Coleman that's, of course, a big part of this 48-7 run so far.
I mean, it feels like Mountain Brook all over again. And, at Mountain Brook, it was just a bunch of brothers working together. Me and Tyler and Christian and Dave and Skip. And, we just had a staff that, excuse me. Sorry, I had to call. Sorry.
No worries.
But we had a great staff that just were a bunch of, just like, I felt like we're brothers and, would make fun of each other, but it was all love and then work hard and played harder. And, like all those guys were in my wedding. And my staff here feels the exact same. And, like, we got some young superstars. We got Dylan Finch, who is, he's finishing up school, but he's becoming an incredible coach. He runs all of our youth stuff. He's the director of our youth development, and he coaches our defense. And to have that responsibility at such a young age, he's just a budding superstar. And he's also a great friend and loyal person. I can't wait to see his career develop, and I hope I can keep him forever. But that ain't going to happen because he is one of the best young basketball coaches in this state, if not the whole country. Then we have Josh Marshall, who is an incredible strength and conditioning coach. I let him take the kids to the weight room, and I go do something else basketball related. And he just is a great human, great person. He runs a youth group. His youth group in Coleman had 11 kids solid coming before he got there, and now they're up to like 50-something kids who are regularly coming every night that he has it. And I'm just so blessed that he, can slum it and be around me because he's the man, and I appreciate him. Jason Johns, he's on our staff. He's a new addition, and he is just a brilliant, organized person who is a great teacher and great coach and great offensive mind, and we're blessed to have him. Scott Broad, our 9th grade coach, I'm to be honest with you, I'm trying to find a way to get Scott around a little bit more. And then we got Mean Gene Allen Green over there. He played at Alabama, just a community guy, loves the Cats, loves our program, and he invests in our JV team, and we just have it going on, man. It's it is a bunch of brothers working together for a greater good, and I can't be any more happy with it, and I'm just so thankful that I got this lucky.
Yeah, absolutely, and got a huge week coming up. As we know, the Bearcats winning last night big, 68-35 over Paul Bryant. They got 2 big area games. We already talked about one of them coming up on Tuesday, as you're going to see the Decatur Red Raiders travel over to Coleman, and then they're going on the road to play Farron Key in a really solid Hartselle program. So a couple of huge dates coming up for the Bearcats. And I got to tell you what, if you're a basketball junkie, you got to have this date circled. February 2nd to end the regular season, the Plainview Bears in a rematch. What 2 great programs, great cultures that is. When you have Robbie Coker and you have the Coleman Bearcats, they're going to square off, and that will be I believe, at Coleman as well. So very excited about that. Very excited about Bearcat basketball. Stu, we appreciate your time. We know you're busy today. You'll be preparing your team for this big week coming up. But thank you for joining us to talk some Bearcat basketball, brother, and we always appreciate it. And we look for the great we're looking forward to the opportunity to speak with you down the road as this playoff run starts. But we'll definitely catch up with you. But thank you for the time today.
Drew, you're the man. I appreciate all you do, brother. I really do. I mean, not too many people who do give the time that you give to it and the spotlight you give us, man. So thankful. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Stu. That's Stu Studeman giving us some time today. The number 2, 6A, Coleman Bearcats, the defending state champions. What a great lineup of coaches this week on the Recruiting Blitz. We're going to go on a break and come back and wrap up this week of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared.
The Blitz has been called.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You're bringing your daughter to her favorite pop stars concert. Do you A, wear earplugs?
Isn't this fun, Dad?
I'll have a soft pretzel.
B, remember the moment with matching concert t-shirts.
That's gonna be $180. Or we can just take a photo.
C, show her how you used to do concerts.
We're going crowd surfing.
I can't. It's too heavy. Oh my God.
Or D, just roll with it.
Woo! Justin! Look at us. We're over here.
Justin! OMG! He just looked. I love you, Justin. I love you.
When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers. But that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This hour of the Blitz is brought to you by Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Online at FlemingHSV.com.
How long does it take to get to the forest? That's not far. What are we gonna do? Hike? Sure. Are we there yet?
Yep, it's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org, brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
The Blitz has been called.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared. We've got a couple of minutes if you want to give us a call, 256-576-4977 on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. But we want to give great respect and are very thankful for the friendship and the time of Stu Studeman, one of the best young coaches in the state of Alabama, as he has built the Coleman Bearcats program into a powerhouse in a very short period of time. As we said, 48-7 now as he enters the stretch run of his second season at Coleman. And I saw them play the other day. Just so connected, play so hard, led by Garrison Sharp, who will be playing his college basketball here in our community for John Schulman with the UAH Chargers. Smart, heady point guard who helped lead them to a state championship a year ago, and now is the head of the Snake. And then Tucker Cagle, he does such a great job as well for them, playing so hard for the Coleman Bearcats, getting his hands on so many basketballs, deflections, hustle plays. He and Garrison Sharp lead the way for a very scrappy bunch over there at Coleman, 19-4, as they're coming off the big win over Paul Bryant last night. And we appreciate Stu Studeman for joining us this morning to talk some Coleman Bearcat basketball. We also talked about Tresman Marshall transferring to the University of Alabama and joining that inside linebacker room from Georgia. A very interesting move for Nick Saban. We're going to continue to monitor that coaching staff situation and, of course, the recruiting already going on in the 2024 class, but especially the transfer portal pieces still being added to 2023 groups. And C.J. Dupree from Maryland, the tight end, and now Tresman Marshall added to Alabama. We already know what Auburn's done with Hugh Freeze, adding piece after piece, revamping their offensive line, revamping their D-line, certainly adding a dynamic running back, Brian Batty, to the room from South Florida, adding Nick Martin, the wide receiver from Cincinnati. So we're going to continue to monitor all that, and we're going to continue to talk recruiting with you again every Monday through Friday from 9 to 10 a.m. And don't forget, later today, it's the Bandyman Bailey Lowry, Captain Cool John Abraham from 2 to 4 with the afternoon blitz. And then we're going to have the drive tonight back on our sister station on 97.7 The Zone. Join Steve Moulton tonight. And we're going to be out at some high school basketball. Huntsville High taking on Mae Jemison and Howard Pride. So come out there, support those young men. But everybody, stay warm, have a great rest of your Friday, and enjoy your weekend. And we'll talk to you on Monday from Bill Penney Toyota at 9 a.m. Have a great day, everybody.